Let's bring in our panel. Coming back, it's the Washington Free Beacon's Matthew Continetti, as well as Daniela Gibbs-Leger of the Center for American Progress, and Ashley Parker of the New York Times. Ashley, let me start with you. What did Ted Cruz say there that was an attack on Donald Trump? Would you call that an attack? It's hard to characterize it as one, is it? It is
a little hard to characterize it as an attack. I think one thing Donald Trump might be able to seize on is that he did it behind closed doors, so it maybe feels a little hypocritical. It's something he's not really willing to say publicly. And another Donald Trump tweet said, you know, if you're going to say this, come out and say it publicly. You know, join in the fun. It'll be more fun that way. So, no, I don't think it was really an attack, but it sort of gives Donald Trump the opening if he wants to.
Danielle, is that a Washington gaffe? Cruz just said what's obvious? Like, yes, the whole point of running for president is to make that decision about commander-in-chief.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous that Donald immediately took it to, oh, you're attacking me, and come and say it to my face. I am enjoying this immensely.
Sure you are. Yeah, most of the left are these days.
Yes,
They're having a good time with it.
Indeed. Although I do wish that everything was a little more elevated. I think this is serious times, and Donald Trump, he's entertaining, but like I think we've moved beyond that point where it's not funny anymore. Like, he may win the nomination, and that should scare people.
Well, it's funny. I feel like that was the point of your column today. A lot of people's columns today is like suddenly, I think a lot of people said, okay, it's time to stop pretending this is going to go away. But Matthew, isn't Donald Trump the best thing to happen to Ted Cruz? Because the establishment hates Cruz. You know, and yet Trump has made Cruz nominatable.
You know, there's that concept in political science, the Overton window. You know, how do you frame the acceptable choices in politics? Well, before Donald Trump entered this campaign, Ted Cruz was on the rightmost edge of that Overton window.
Right.
Trump comes in and he moves the whole thing to places where we would never have expected. Right. So he makes Cruz more establishment even by comparison. I think it was an attack on Donald Trump for this reason. He was, for the first time, questioning Donald Trump's judgment, basically saying he doesn't have the judgment to be commander-in-chief. And he was also being an insider, as Ashley said, as opposed to kind of the frontal persona that he presents.
Here's what's interesting about the judgment thing, and I have no doubt Cruz's campaign being so well organized, that has been, in my anecdotal focus grouping of conservatives on Trump, the first thing when they say, I said, can you accept, the first thing I said, finger on the button. That's the thing that can move voters. All right, let's take a quick break here. Let me bring back the panel, Matthew Continetti, Danielle Gibbs-Leger, and Ashley Parker. And Matthew, let me start with Carson's statement. I think I know what he's trying to get at here. He's basically saying, well, this better not be some orchestration to nominate somebody that didn't even run and nominate somebody that doesn't finish in the top tier of the campaign, right?
Right, and that won't happen until the actual brokered convention. Yeah. So he's kind of he's got his chronology wrong. I think what the meeting that he was responding to is basically a logistical one. What happens if we enter the Republican convention without any single candidate having a majority of the delegates necessary to win? Which some political analysts like Sean Trendy at Real Clear Politics say is a possibility.
Oh, look, it is all in the hands of Donald Trump. I mean, I think that's what we know. We know there's normally been sort of two wings of the party, a conservative wing, an establishment wing, and Trump's created this third thing. But Ashley, in this day and age of transparency, of a diversified media, fragmented media, ideological, you know, people, there's no way a smoke-filled room is going to be tolerated by anybody, right?
Right. No, probably not. Although I do have to say it would not be good for the Republican Party to have any of these nominees break off and run as an independent. And one thing that was interesting is the RNC was very bullish about getting everyone to sign this pledge that they would run as a Republican. And they thought they sort of had this trick to nail Donald Trump down, right? He can't run as an independent. But it actually sort of backfired on them because, of course, Donald Trump will run as an independent if he wants to or as a third party. He has no problem breaking that pledge. But what it's done is it's tied all the other Republican nominees who have to sit there and squirm and say, I would absolutely support Donald Trump if he's the nominee, even though that won't happen. So it's locked them in a weird way.
No, it has. But I guess, Dana, I just go to this transparency thing. I mean, this won't be, so for historical state and peace, people multiple ballots in 52 for Adlai Stevenson, and there were multiple ballots in 44 for Thomas Dewey. That's the last time the Republicans did it, last time Democrats did it. Since then, we've had this magical way of picking a nominee through actual voters going to primaries.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way that this process is going to be hidden from anybody. I will say I do think it's a little much ado about nothing. They were having a logistical meeting. I think
by the way, it wasn't even a formal meeting.
Right.
So
it was like
in the RNC's defense here, it's a meeting that Reince Priebus just agreed to go to
hanging
a
out at
monthly
the
dinner.
source, having dinner,
right, and somebody
it came up.
brought it up to him, right?
Exactly, and I think you do your due diligence, the DNC and the RNC, to talk about all possible outcomes. I will say, as someone who has worked on many conventions, the thought of a brokered convention just makes me want to cry.
Well, but there's one piece of good news if you're right in this, in that it is an early convention. This is one thing. So the throwback of this convention is he's doing as early of a convention as we'll have in a long time, being in, I think, the second week of July. He
did, though, given the track record of all the reforms he made to the primary process in the hopes of not repeating the mistakes of 2012. I fear that even that, hoping for the earlier convention, is going to backfire in Reince's hands. So.
Well, and Daniel, before Hillary Clinton has been sort of overshadowed of late. She puts out a policy position, probably every couple of days, doesn't get a lot of attention. At what point is she so overshadowed that people don't even know what she's talking about these days? Is there a concern among you folks at CAP on that?
I don't think there is a concern among Democrats more broadly about her being overshadowed. I mean, look, as closer we get to Iowa, the focus will turn back on that race again. I just think right now folks are focused on what's happening on the Republican side, but I don't think there's any danger in, her message not getting out.
Sort of out of sight, out of mind? You don't think that's something to worry about?
I don't think so. It's Hillary Clinton. She's never out of mind.
Well, that may be true. All right. Matthew, Daniela, Ashley, stick around. Next in the lid, how the Bush campaign is trying to avoid Mitt Romney's election mistakes. Well, with Iowa and New Hampshire fast approaching, Ashley Parker, who's been here with us, of course, reports that the Bush campaign is doing its best to sidestep Mitt Romney's mistakes. She reports in the Times, quote, in conversations months ago about Mr. Romney's vulnerabilities and weaknesses, the Bush team tried to learn from Mr. Romney's mistakes. According to aides, tweaking elements like press strategy and campaign style. Well, I'm going to ask Ashley more about this. Also still with me, of course, are Matthew Continetti and Daniela Gibbs-Leger. What? Sort of at this point, for a candidate that's stuck in the low single digits, someplace Mitt Romney never was in either of his two campaigns, it's kind of a head-scratcher today.
Well, I think the campaign, the Bush campaign, which has a lot of veterans from Mitt Romney's campaign, realized early on their candidates have a lot of the same similarities, right? Which, as one Obama advisor put it to me, is they're sort of America's awkward dad. They kind of have a bumbling way with words. They're policy wonks. They inspire tremendous loyalty among their staff, but they can't quite connect with voters. You hear for both of them, if only America could see the Jeb Bush, the Mitt Romney we knew. So they looked at that and they used Mitt Romney as a reverse playbook. And they said, what can we learn from this? And the things they decided were Romney didn't really talk to the press that much, and it created a vacuum where any verbal misstep or gaffe sort of got magnified. So they have Jeb talking to the press all the time. He does a lot of interviews. As a reporter on the trail, he stops, he answers our questions. Even when his aides don't want him to, he answers our questions. And they're just trying to show sort of the embrace the dorky side of him rather than covered up.
But ultimately, Matthew, I don't think this is really about tactics. Right? Isn't this about, he's burdened with the last name in a year of anti-elitism?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And what I liked about Ashley's piece was how it revealed the thinking of the Bush campaign when they entered the race, which is, we are going to be the inevitable candidate. We will kind of be the Hillary Clinton on the Republican side. We will have the money. We will wow everybody. We will have the name. We'll have the brand. And we're just going to intimidate people. Ironically, the only person they seem to have intimidated was Mitt Romney.
Right.
And all the other people they wanted to muscle out have stayed in, and we've watched as not only is it the last name that's hurting, but as I believe the party has moved Bush years.
What's funny, Danielle, is that, by the way, as of a month ago, you would talk to Clinton people, they were still convinced that, oh no, Bush, they are thinking in the old way about, they still haven't figured out who they're nominating. They have, oh no, it'll be Bush, because that's just, they'll figure that out. Of course they're facing Jeb Bush.
I don't know if they're still saying that
I don't think it's today, but about a month ago, am I right? That still was the thinking.
I don't understand how he could think that his name wouldn't have been a hindrance coming in.
They knew that. I think they always knew to a point.
Right. But again, when you look back and you compare the brothers, like everyone always said, well, Jeb, he's a better campaigner, he's a better candidate, like it's going to be much better, and it has totally proven not to be the case. So I don't know what lessons are out there that he can possibly learn that's going to get him out of the position he's in right now.
All right, I want to go quickly to Trump and back there. Des Moines Register polls coming out this weekend. they use a very system of actually, you know, caucus goers and all this stuff. If it's the same trend as we saw with the Monmouth poll, and suddenly which used more registered voters, not what CNN did, and Cruz is ahead, how does Trump respond?
Well, he'll attack Iowa, which he's done before, and then I think he will attack Ted Cruz. It didn't take much for him to go after Ben Carson when it looked like Carson was gaining on him in Iowa. That's why I think he'll go after Cruz. And
Ashley? Attacking works. By the way, when has Trump's attacks not been effective? On his candidacy? Jeb Bush, low energy?
Never. Rubio's the one exception.
So far.
Well, that's the brilliance of his attacks, is they have a grain of, or more than a grain of truth in a lot of them, and it's something the voters can then pick up on. And Trump makes an attack, and you're talking to voters in an event, and you hear it parroted back. With Jeb and the low energy, I was talking to voters, and voters said, you know, his posture just isn't great. It seems like he's a little low energy, the way he moves his shoulders. I mean, it's the Trump attack.
Right. Well, we'll see about Cruz, because Cruz is somebody that continues to want to suck up to him, and he usually is softer on those people. Anyway. Thank you all, Matthew, Danielle, and Ashley. You'll all be